Hey, 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 what's going on, guys? How are you doing out there? If you are watching this live, we are going to be starting an amazing series here. Every so often on Saturdays, we're going to try and bring in a new guest where we can just talk to them about really, really awesome topics. This one's going to be focused on mindset, right? And soon in the podcast, you're going to see we'll have a mindset series, but we're bringing in an awesome professional here. His name is Jamil Sayegh, right? Dr. Jamil Sayegh. He is an amazing guy. Actually went to high school with me. So I'm really excited to bring him on. And we have him here. I'm using this new system called Be Live TV. I'm really excited about it. But this is my first time using it. So bear with me if there's a little bit of a lag. And I believe we have him coming on.
Hey, hey.
And boom, there he is. All right. Hey,
Hey, everybody.
what's going on, Jamil? How you doing, man?
Everything's awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me and for the opportunity.
No, dude, thank you so much for coming on here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and talk to our folks.
Absolutely.
Um, Yeah, man. So, really, really glad to have reconnected with you, buddy. For those of you who don't know, Jamil actually coached me for a little bit. And God, man, I'm telling you, it was so transformational, our time together. And so I really am glad and blessed to bring you back here and talk to our folks because I know that you definitely help a lot of people out. But anyway, awesome, man. Thanks so much for having me. Do you mind getting into a little bit of your background and how you got started being a life coach?
Absolutely, man. I'd be happy to. Yeah, so essentially, I've been a coach now for about to be 15 years. And it started for me when I was 14 and I got into track and field, and that was actually where I met you. And
Yeah.
got into track and field, and I noticed that not only my track times weren't where I wanted them to be, but I was getting sick all the time, and I didn't really know why. And it turned out that it was my diet. And when I looked into it, it started with nutrition. I started diving into that. YouTube just came out 2004, books, podcasts, not even podcasts, like radio shows, all that kind of stuff, and learning as much as I could about health. And then once I stopped getting sick, I started feeling great. Track time started improving. I thought, there's got to be more than this. And once I thought about it, I was like, what are the other areas of a fulfilling life? And I thought relationships, I thought mindset, I thought business, motivation, all that kind of stuff. So I just dove in headfirst and just put in thousands and thousands of hours to this point, really figuring out as much as I possibly could to help people get from where they are to where they want to be. And usually we're the ones in our own way and we can't see our own blind spots. So having someone able to point out, hey, the way you're seeing that isn't the way it actually is really, really helpful. And I know it's been helpful to me in my own life. And I've been really blessed at this point to be able to work with clients from around the world and make a difference in their life. And they also make a difference in mine. And so it's been a really beautiful journey to get to this point. I think that's a good way to open it up with that.
Yeah, man. No, that's phenomenal. And really, bud, I think that's great what you have been able to accomplish in really such a short amount of time. Yeah, I remember back in high school, running track together and all the craziness going on with with Iona. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We'd be going all different places and dealing with all different personalities, high school drama, all that crap. But what I remember specifically about you, Bud, is that you were always upbeat, you were always positive, and I remember a couple of times where we would be like the hype guys, like trying to get everyone motivated at those meets that were just long and drawn out, and people would be sitting around waiting for hours just to wait for like the DMR, right? The distance medley relay at the end.
Well, for anyone watching who doesn't know, Mike is a champion. I remember this one memory being in the Armory track and field indoor track. It's like a coliseum kind of seating up on the top and the tracks on the bottom. And Mike was part of this sprint relay, and they won first place. They got a victory lap, and we're all cheering them on. It was
Oh.
an unbelievable place to be.
Oh man, that was a fun meet. I love those armory meets, man. Those are great. It was so electric because you're literally trapped in this can, dude. But don't put that on me, man. You were the champion. You were on the distance side and crushed it, especially when they did the 4x8s. Oh my
Yeah.
god, man.
Thank you, man. So
Yeah. That was wild. But he started there though, right? I mean, it started young, right? We built some really good and positive habits young, and then you just kind of carried it on into life. You know what I mean? You just kept going, and now you're giving back in a major way. And I love that, man. I love that about you. So phenomenal, dude.
thank you so much, man. To add to that, one of the things to me that it was kind of the thing that fueled the fire, that kept that site, the momentum going, is I would learn things initially for myself, with the health, let's say. And then as I started seeing results, people noticed it and they started saying, hey, I've got that too. Can you help me with that? And there I am, 14, 15, 16, helping them get rid of a condition that their doctor says they're going to have for the rest of their life. And I thought that was so interesting. And I wanted to be a doc since I was young. My father was a physician. And I told myself, okay, I want to do this, but I'm so interested in the nutrition, the lifestyle side of it. And I thought I'd learned that in med school, but I wanted to get a head start on it now. And I just started seeing so much benefit to those people, friends, family, friends of family, and some clients. And then it started spilling over into the relationship and the mindset work I was doing. And I started having couples saying, hey, we're having a hard time. Hey, our marriage isn't doing well. Can you help us? And keep in mind, I was 16, not married, not in a relationship. And yet I was able to prevent their divorce because understanding
Wow.
communication, understanding what their love strategies are, how to figure out what lights both people up and how do we bring back that spark that was there in the beginning. And it's just been such a fulfilling ride. And just, I've truly been blessed up until this point.
I love it, man. Absolutely love that, and that's inspiring to know that you can make that change in someone's life at such a young age, and have it be positive, right? I know a lot of folks aren't really receptive to to help like that, right? I mean, from people that have either haven't gone through it or haven't lived as much life, right? There's this stigma that you're young and you can't give somebody advice. I think that our generation now has kind of is starting to get over that fact, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, you don't have to be as old and experienced to know how to live life, man. I mean, it's it's life. We're
Well,
people.
like it kind of, there's this idea of, for instance, there's a quote, it's like the master is the student and the student is the master, in a certain sense that a master is just a lifelong student. It's a person who's just been learning and failing longer than you have. And they've learned, and so when you take it from that perspective, you realize that I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know. And if you're a kid, a baby could teach you something. If you're a 6-year-old that's really freaking present and really grateful and it's got a great viewpoint and perspective, someone could say, oh, that kid's naive, but that kid could say something in their innocence that makes you realize, wow, the kid's right. Like, I haven't seen it from that perspective in a long time, and I completely forgot that was even an option. And so
Right.
when you're open to saying, I can learn something from anybody, and when you're open to that, that wall of ego kind of comes down.
I love that. Love that. That wall of ego. That's really good. So you know what? I think this is a perfect segue to really our first question, Jamil, and really that is like, what is the importance of self development, right? Like, why is that really important?
Mm. Well, I think it kind of goes, it's a great question. I think it kind of goes back to what I just said about you don't know what you don't know.
Mm,
And so in your life, I think of self-development as like there's 4 areas that I like to look at with people. When I think of the medical background that I'm trained in, it's holistic. So I've got the conventional side of things, the medications, all the disease studies, but then I also have the nutrition and the acupuncture and the physical medicine, the mental emotional side. And I bring it up because it's a holistic framework. You're more than just, your liver. If you have a liver problem, you're the whole being. And in the same way, what are the different areas of your life? Your health, your relationships, your career, your finances, your family, and all the other stuff that's your health and fitness. And when you think about it, self-development, am I developing myself to be who I want to be? Or am I just kind of living as if I woke up today and that's an accident. Like I have no target of where I'm headed. And so if I'm doing it, I'm not consciously and consistently getting closer to where I want to be. I'm not evolving as a man or as a woman. Then it's not that you have to do it, but it's a lot easier road to get where you want to be, especially in today's world where a lot of times you have so many people that want to do what you want to do, that what makes you stand out, what makes you different. And it's that self-development, it's that training that you're doing that's going to give you that edge.
I love that. Absolutely love that, man. That's very, very inspiring. And I think that mindset plays a huge factor in that, right? Because I mean, first you gotta want to change. Right? You need to actually have that desire to go out and say, okay, I can do things better. But from your experience, um like what good habits maybe can people get into to kind of give themselves that mindset to get themselves in that line of thinking.
Mm, yeah. That's so there's so much. And this is the thing. It's everyone is unique and everyone's different. And so
Right.
just like with diet, somebody might say, "Hey Mike, you should eat this way because I ate this way and it worked for me." But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And in the
Mhm.
same way, when it comes to mindset, there's so many ways you could approach it based on your individual circumstances and situations and where you want to go. But at the same time, I think there are some consistent principles, and
Mhm.
I'd love to share that with you. And it could be, a lot of the work that I do with people is all about creating an extraordinary life without regret. And when I
Awesome.
think of that, I think of it as, just to give you a quick background and the listeners, the most trying period of my life was a 3-year period from 19 to 22 where my father had a brain aneurysm. And if anyone who doesn't know what that is, just imagine you have a blood vessel in the brain. It starts to balloon out. And then if you're not fortunate, it pops. And he was in a 4 hour, his popped and he was in a 4 hour brain surgery. And the neurosurgeon said, worst brain aneurysm he'd ever seen. And he told us that his survival chances were probably around 1%. And if
Wow.
he did survive, he'd be in a coma. And you can imagine that was devastating to hear, but we were
Mhm.
hoping for the best. And 4 hours later he survived the surgery, but he was in a coma. And I walked into this room and I see this man that, and this all comes together, I see this man that was the epitome of what it meant to be a man. He was my role model, my father, and it looked like a train hit him. And I was filled in that moment with two very, very powerful feelings. The first one was a deep sense of helplessness. I couldn't really do anything to help him in that moment, and I wanted to with every part of me. And then the other one was a profound sense of regret because in that up until that moment, I was 19, I realized I'd been taking my dad for granted. I hadn't been I loved him, he loved me. I was really fortunate in that way, but at the same time, I took for granted the time I could have spent with him because I was like, oh, he's only 49, I'll have him, 50 more years. And there's all these little things I want to do with my friends or whatever I was interested in, my hobbies. And I didn't just build the relationship that I could have. And in that moment, I felt that I wouldn't have that chance. And
Wow,
to,
man.
and then
God.
fast forwarding over 3 years, so much happened. And I was one of his primary caregivers, took some time off after college, and I got tested and pushed in every way. Mentally as a primary caregiver, putting in like the 16, 17 hours a day, just taking care of one person that you can't leave their side. But then the emotional side, the spiritual side, the mental side. And I really felt that I reached like some of the lowest points in my life, like my darkest dark. But in that dark, by moving through it, finding the light. And when you find the light in the darkness, you can be that light for other people. Because I
Mhm.
really do believe you can only take people as deep as you've gone yourself. And so at the end of 3 years, my dad passed away. And I remember being at his wake, and it was a 5 hour wake, and over 7,000 people came. And I just remember
Wow.
standing next to his casket, and almost everybody said, your dad saved my life. And it was not only deeply humbling and inspiring, and also to see people come from different cultures, different religions, asking if they can pray over the casket in their own way, and to see the impact that he had in the short life that he lived. And I made a promise to myself at that point, and it was this idea of I had been a shy person, especially growing up, and I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to just put myself out there. And I would hold myself back because I was really afraid of rejection. I was really afraid of what other people thought about me. I didn't want to look bad or whatever, whatever the fears are. And I allowed that to keep me playing small, to dim the light that I had to shine. And I made a promise to myself that, that no more. I was going to play full out. I was going to live every day as if it was my last. And I was going to treat people and be with people as if, it was the miracle that it is, that they are. And it's just been a beauty. It's been 7 years since he passed away. And it's just been such a amazing, amazing 7 years. I find that when you can look back at what you thought was the worst time period of your life, and you find the meaning in it, you find the lesson in it, you find how it made you who you are today. All of a sudden, the worst thing that ever happened to me is also, in a bittersweet way, the best thing that ever happened to me, because it made me who I am today. And it's the reason I'm able to help the people that I help. And, I've got so much more that I'm planning on doing. And none of that would have been possible if I didn't become the person that I became by going through that process. And I think that every one of us has that light to shine, and oftentimes we don't. And so going back to your question, it's like, what are the mindset kind of tips and habits and strategies that we can include?
Wow. Yeah.
I wanted to give the background because
Mm,
to me, it's like, how do you create an extraordinary life on your terms without regret?
yeah.
And so I can jump into that if that's cool with you.
Please. Yeah. Go for it, man. I mean, real quick, that's such a deep story, man. And I really, really appreciate you being transparent like that with us and with our listeners, because that's crazy. And that leads to one hell of a why. So yeah, man, let's go into it.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Mm.
Yeah, that story I could go on for 2 hours, so I wanted to give you a short version.
Yeah, no, I got you, man.
Yeah.
Completely understand. Yeah.
Yeah. But so for me, I think it always starts with, you got to know what you want. And I think it sounds obvious, and you'd be surprised the amount of people that I work with that they come in telling me about, this is the way my life is right now. I don't like this. I don't like this. I hate that this is the way that it is. And then I'll say, okay, so given all that, what do you want to create for yourself? What's the life that you do want? And they look at me as if, that's a good question. Like, I've never thought about that.
Okay.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you don't know what you want, you don't know where you're headed. You don't have that target, so you can't hit it. I always like to use the GPS analogy. When you get into a car, what are the two most important points that you need to make sure are in the system? Where you are right now and where you want to be. And if you're not clear on either of those points, if you say, if I'm going to sugarcoat where I'm at now, lie about it because I want to feel better about myself, and I'm going to say, oh, it's not that bad. It's like saying that this is where you're at, but you tell the GPS you're here. So now the GPS is confused as to how is it you say you're here, but you're actually here. So you won't get there. And then if you if you don't know where you're going, then you're just driving around aimlessly. So you really got to know, what's the mission, what's the target, what am I heading after? Because once you know that, you can actively make decisions continuously that are moving you in that direction. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, that makes plenty sense. It really does. And I mean, even in the military, I mean, it's so true, because if you, like, for guidance, right? Let's talk about like missiles. Like, if you don't have a guidance system in place, you are not going to hit your target. I mean, exactly. It's binary, right? So thus should it be for us, right? If we don't have our target clearly mapped out with our guidance on how we're going to get there, you're not going to get there. I mean, you can hope and dream and think that you're going to wake up one day and have $1 million, but unless you've done the actions and the steps to get that $1 million, it's not going to happen.
And I love that you use the missile analogy, because I can what's the word I'm looking for? Like, connect with that in the sense that it's not just knowing what you want. Because first you know what you want, then you take action, which is what everyone says. But then there's this missile guidance system idea it's called sensory acuity in psychology. This idea of, am I getting closer to where I want to be, or am I getting further away from where I want to be based on the actions I'm taking? And if I'm getting closer, great, double down on that, go all in. But if I'm getting further away, if it's not working, then I got to change. I got to try something new. And that's what the missile's doing. The missile's coming after the target. Target moves, the missile turns towards the target and keeps following it. Otherwise, it'd be a kind of crappy missile. It just you got a straight shot and you're gonna miss. And
Right.
so you figure out what you want, you take action toward it, then you have that sensory acuity. Is it working? Am I getting closer? If I am, again, double down on it. And then you keep hyper focus on what you want. It's really easy, especially in today's day and age. My phone right here, let's say, people get so distracted. The phone buzzes, a little message, whatever it is, a notification, and it's like you have to check it. But you didn't realize that you sat down to do a 1 hour time block of work on your business or work on yourself or whatever it is. And then the phone, actually, you were on Facebook for 20 minutes of that hour. Like you weren't actually hyper focused. And so when you get hyper focused on what you want, you know what it is, you take action, you have that acuity to be able to change direction if need be. And then you focus until you get there. Just like accomplishing the mission, you got to go all in until you arrive.
Right. I love that, man. I love that, dude. Just that focus, that clear focus and clear guided, energy that you put towards accomplishing your goal.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, man.
And something, to add to it, I know in my own business earlier in the year in January, I had all these ideas. And it's like, I want to write a book. I want to do a podcast. I want to do this group program. I want to do all these mastermind, like all these things. Every one of those is a massive project in and of itself. And so I spread myself so thin because I wasn't focused. I was I was kind of distracted. I was distracted from each individual one. And so it turns into none of them really had any amazing progress because I'm spreading myself so thin. Once I dropped it and I said, I'm just going to focus on this for now. And as this grows, then I'm going to add the other stuff in as time goes on. That was a way better strategy, being hyper-focused on the one thing that will get me closer to where I want to be.
Right. No, that makes sense. That makes so much sense, man. Phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you. And another thing is, once you know what you want, it's really important at that point also, this is from my perspective, I think you have to know who you want to be. Not like what, as in like I want to be, a real estate investor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a firefighter, whatever it is you want to do. That's not what I'm talking about. That would be the first one. Like, what do I want? This is who do I want to be? What kind of person? What kind of man, what kind of woman? Do I want to be a person who's passionate, who loves life, who's genuine? Do I want to be a kind of person who's honest with people, always present? And if I want to do that, I'm going to act differently. I'm going to act a certain way. I think a lot of people wake up in the morning and they might set an intention, let's say for, what am I doing today? That's the what. But what if you set an intention for who am I going to be today? What if you have a presentation you're giving or you got something that's big for you that you've been preparing for and you know it? And you tell yourself, today I'm going to be somebody who's confident, who believes in themselves, who's got the courage to push forward. I'm going to meet somebody new today. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to connect with that person. Just setting that, it's something called dissociative rehearsal. This idea that every world-class athlete, every world-class, presenter, CEO, performer in anything, they rehearse it mentally first. They see it in their mind happening successfully, the way they want it to go.
I love that.
And once you do that mentally, that mental rehearsal, then you bring it into real life. And then all of a sudden your brain is like, oh, wow, we've done this before. When you actually haven't physically done it before, but the brain doesn't know the difference. The brain is just in your skull and it's just getting input from your five senses and you're thinking. And if you're thinking, oh, it's like we're already here. You're visualizing it. You're seeing it as if it's happening now and you do it successfully. The nerves, the anxiety, the stress, a lot of that melts away. Because it's like, oh, I've done this before. Now it's just, now I'm just doing it again. And it's always easier, the second time, the third time, the fourth time. I remember the first presentation I ever gave, there was like 200-300 people in the audience. And I was pretty like nervous about that. And I remember I had my whole like paper, like the night before, points I wanted to make sure I hit. And I was memorizing it. I was like, all right, I got it. And then I looked at my couch. It's actually right behind me. I looked at my couch and I told myself, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to imagine like, 200-300 people on this couch as if it was just the whole room there. And then I open my eyes and I start just from memory. Immediately, heart starts pounding. I forgot what I wanted to say. And I had just went through this like 20 times. I knew it cold. Why did that happen? Because I actually convinced myself in that moment that it was real. High pressure, high stress, heart started going, and I lost it. Palms got sweaty, arms are
Wow.
heavy, mom's spaghetti, none of that.
Man.
And so the thing of once I had that couch kind of thing going on and I ran through that a couple more times, then I got really comfortable. Then I started having fun with it. I started pausing at certain places, pointing at certain people, just having fun. And then the next day, I show up to this presentation with that mental rehearsal, and it was so comfortable. And half of it I even just made up on the spot. Like I just ran with whatever was coming out. And people came up after saying, "Wow, that was amazing. How many times have you done this? Like that must have been like you must have been doing this for a while." That was the first time I've ever done that. But in my head, not really.
In your head, you were there. Yeah.
So again, you know what you want, then you know who you want to be. So an exercise that you might be familiar with that you and I did, I call it, the have do be versus the be do have.
Have to be. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And so going back to who do you want to be? Let's say you want to be somebody who's really confident, right? And most people operate on this have do be mentality. They'll say, I need to have confidence first to be able to do the things confident people do, to be able to be confident. But if you notice, that means being confident is at the end. But the prerequisite for their first step, I need to have confidence. So I have to already be it. And I'm not in this example, so I'm never going to have it. But if I do the be, do, have, it's saying I'm going to be confident by choice. I'm going to step into that, whatever that means to me. I'm going to choose to be that fully. And keep in mind, confident, I kind of use confident and courageous in a almost like a synonymous way. And there's a beautiful short story that I remember of a little boy and his father. And the boy says to his dad, he says, "Dad, can a man have courage if he's afraid?" And the dad smiles and he says, "Son, that's the only time a man can have courage." People think being confident, being courageous means they're not afraid, they're all in, like there's zero hesitation. No. There's that old expression, a hero is no braver than any ordinary man. He's only braver 5 minutes longer. He goes into the fire for those few minutes that the average person would not. But they both have that same confidence, courage, braveness available to them. It's, are you accessing it? So now with the be, do, have, are you being it? And if you're being it, you're going to do the things the confident, courageous, brave person does. The end result is you are being confident, courageous, and brave. That applies to anything that you can imagine. And so again, you get really clear what you want. You mentally rehearse it. Then you get clear on who you need to be to accomplish that. What kind of person is required for you to be that? Because I promise you, you don't have the things you want in your life up until this point yet, because you have not yet become the person who can create that. Otherwise, you'd already have it. If somebody,
that is a good word.
Yeah. If somebody's sitting there thinking, why don't I have $100 million? I don't get it. I've read all the books, I've done the development, but you're not taking the action that would create that consistently, coupled with the mindset of that kind of person you haven't developed yet. That's why you get people that win the lottery. Here's you go from broke to 300 million, and you look at the studies and the statistics on it. Within 2 to 3 years, you're bankrupt. Why? Because you had all this money come in, but you haven't become the person yet who actually can create that. And so what ends up happening is you still think with the mindset that when it was impossible, and it brings you back to it. You always return to that source. But once you elevate that mindset, that's why you get these billionaires that go bankrupt 3 or 4 times in their life, but they make it back. Because they've already become that person who can create that.
Yeah, it's already instilled in their head. They've been throughout that process. I love that, man. Yeah. Oh, I love that, dude. That's so wow.
Thank you, man. So again, and it's always building, so it starts with the what you want, then it turns into the, you talked about, I actually didn't, I'm not going to go too much into it, but the why. You talked about, why you want it. That matters. What's pulling you?
Yeah.
What's the thing that's going to make it so you won't give up when times get hard? Because I promise you, people think this is point A. The camera's kind of backwards. I need to get this right. This is point A and this is point B. And they think it's going to be a straight shot. And as we all know, no, there's going to be sidetracks. There's going to be times where you fall off the horse. There's going to be times where you get discouraged, where you're not being patient enough. It's not going as fast as you want it to. And that's okay. The why is what pulls you through. So you know what you want. You're hyper focused on that. You got that sensory acuity to figure out, okay, what's working, what's not, and let me adapt. You know why you want it. Then you know who I want to be today and every day going forward. And maybe, you know, at the end of the day, you have a little kind of a journal or something that you can intentionally write, you know, who was I today? And, you know, maybe you lived into what you wanted and maybe you didn't, or maybe you kind of stepped into it and then you maybe backed off a little bit. You celebrate that you stepped into it at all. And then you recommit for tomorrow. You know, commitment's everything. That's like that commitment to who you want to be.
Right.
And so now you know what you want. You got the mental rehearsal, you know why you want it, you know who you want to be. And then going with that, this is more of a mindset part of it. I think it's really important. You know, I mentioned with my dad's story that without regret type of perspective. And after he passed away, one of the gifts that gave me is it gave me this perspective shift that none of us know, you know, how much time we have left. And there's this Dalai Lama quote where he says, many people live as if they're never going to die, and then they die having never really lived. This perspective that, you know, you have people in your life right now that you love and they love you, and yet you don't really make them feel as loved as you could. You don't give them the time, the energy, the attention that you could. And it's not a matter of a quantity. You might say, oh, well, I'm busy. I've got all this stuff going on. But there's the quality component. When I'm with you, I'm with you. Right now, my phone's on airplane mode. I made sure I have zero distractions. Mike, you and your audience are the center of my universe. And that is how I am with everybody that I'm with. Because that experience with my father told me that I might never see you again. When I went to bed on Saturday night and Sunday morning, he had his aneurysm. He had his aneurysm when I was still sleeping. I didn't know that, and I woke up to my mom screaming, and I broke a door to get him out. But you better believe that, you know, I never saw my father in that same way that he was Saturday night ever again. But I didn't know at the time that that was going to happen within 24 hours. And I think that we all know people that have, you know, died in our minds too soon. People that we didn't get a chance to say goodbye to, people that maybe we have some regret about. But if you can bring that into this moment, and this is where that strategy comes in, I think you need to look at the opportunities in your life. You need to look at the people in your life, and you need to say, I'm going to approach these things as if it's the first time I'm seeing them and the last time I'm seeing them. I promise you that, let's say you are driving home from work, you're on watch, and you're just looking at, you know, a sunset, or you're with somebody else, or you're in that moment. What if I told you this is the last night you'll be alive, but you're going to be in this situation? Like, this is the last sunset you're ever going to see. This person in front of you is the last person you're ever going to be with. I promise you that would change the way you were being in relation to that thing or that person or that opportunity. When you recognize that whatever opportunity you have, like we talked about point A and point B, and it's like, all right, you're not at point B yet, but this opportunity that you have to move you closer, this is your opportunity. This is your shot. You know, I mentioned, it's funny, I used that Eminem reference before. It's like, you know, opportunity comes once in a lifetime, that kind of thing. That opportunity comes, are you taking advantage of it? This is your opportunity. This is your shot. You know, you have your romantic relationship, you have your family members, you have your friends, whatever it is. You're in business and this customer is right in front of you. The client or customer in front of you is the only one that matters. The family member in front of you is the only one that matters. Are you being with them fully? Because I promise you that if I'm with you fully, and I express, one of the biggest regrets of people who are dying is I didn't tell the people that I loved how much I love them. And when you recognize that and you go, I'm going to be with people fully, all of a sudden, now it turns into, at the end of that conversation, let's say I give you a hug. People tell me all the time that I give them some of the best hugs they've ever gotten. And I had someone tell me something that really touched me, because I knew it. I never put it into words. She tells me, every time you hug me, I feel like you're never going to see me again. And I was like, wow, that's one of the most beautiful things I ever heard. but B, that's exactly what I was going for. I just didn't even know it. And the point there is, imagine you were like that with everyone in your life that matters to you like the most. Now, regardless of how much time you have with them and how much time is left that you don't know, you're making the most of that time. And if and when that, well, if or not if, when that time does come, that
Mm.
something happens or they get older and they pass, you won't have any regret because you're like, what a celebration of their life. Like, I love them so much. We had so many beautiful times together. We laughed, we cried, we were authentic with each other. Versus, I feel like there's so many things I wanted to tell that person that I never did. And keep in mind that it's not like, let's say that person's already passed. There's something you can do about it. There's an exercise I do with clients that I can share with your audience in case that person is no longer around that you really wish you've spoken to. You write a letter to that person. And in that letter, you say everything that you really want to make sure that you would have said in person. If they came back from the dead for 2 hours, let's say, and you got to speak to them for 2 hours, what would you tell them? Like, you write that. You're
Wow.
crying, it's emotional, it's real. The second letter is them writing back to you. Now, you're writing it, of course, but you're stepping into their shoes, and they're basically telling you what you really wished they said.
Mm.
And then the third letter is you writing back, thanking them, and it's more of a closure. And then at the end, you can burn the letters, you can shred the letters, whatever you want to do that's representative of that closure for you. But I've had people do that exercise, and if somebody's passed away that they didn't have that completion with, they're so much in a better spot. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys. But please, there's an expression: learn from the mistakes of others because you'll never live long enough to make them all yourself. And from that perspective, I know that I look at life more as there's no mistakes, there's lessons. But at the same time, when I think about when I was younger and being able to be with my dad more, that's something that I would share with somebody who's younger or somebody who's my age or older, but their parents are still around, their loved ones are still around. You know, everyone you're with, every opportunity you're with, this is the first and the last time you're going to get to experience it. And if you can actually live into that, every day of your relationship will be like it's the beginning. That spark will never die. And it's, that business opportunity, that sunset, you see a flower and it becomes the most beautiful thing in the world. Not like a child looks at a flower and it's like amazed by it. A child sees a little ant crawling on the sidewalk and it's like completely captivated. An adult thinks, oh, I've seen that before. That's not special. That's ordinary. And all of a sudden, life loses its magic. But if everything returns to this, what if this is the last time I'm ever going to see that? The magic comes back, that extraordinariness, that miracle comes back. And I think that just that perspective alone, I still have a couple things to share, and we've already shared a couple things, but just that alone will make the rest of your life a living miracle if you apply it.
Wow, man. Wow. That is just so freaking powerful, dude. I will have you know, Jamil, that you are the first and probably the only person to make me cry on this interview. That is just goodness, man. Wow. God, that's so powerful. And it's so true because you never know when your last moment is going to be with that person that you are with. And in our world, right, in the military, that rings so true because anything, literally anything can happen. I mean, just last year, or was it the year or a couple of years ago, we had this crazy incident where members were not as vigilant as they should have been on watch. And that led to the death of 7 sailors out at sea. And it was just something so routine, right? I mean, but you never know when you are going to be in that position. And then to even be, some of those sailors that had to close the hatch to save the rest of the ship, knowing that there were individuals on the other side of that door. Like, it's just, oh, it's so real, man. And you have to literally live every single life, just like you mentioned, Jamil. It's not It's not, living every second on our phones, right? That we're so attached to on the hip, and having these disjointed conversations. The hugs, just the small moments, right? Oh my goodness, man. That's so real. That's so real, man. I really appreciate that. That was deep. And that exercise too. I love that, right? The letters.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with that, man?
It was actually amazing. I was in when I was in med school, there was this client of mine who was going through a hard time, and I was trying to think like, what could I do to help this person, have that closure they're looking for, and I came up with that. And then when I gave it to them and it worked, and it was like, I told them, if you don't cry writing that first letter, you're not doing it right. And I get a message the next day. He's like, "Yeah, you were you were lying about that. Like, that first letter was like insane." But the thing is,
Oh
that's the
my
key.
God, man. Wow.
Emotion is there to be felt and it's there to be expressed. But what many of us do, because of, it's our coping strategy, it's how we know to take care of ourselves, we suppress it, or we think it's not okay. A lot of times, both of us being guys, a lot of men get told it's not okay to cry. A lot of men get told,
Mm,
crying is a sign of
true.
weakness.
That's
And
so
if
true.
you believe that and you hold it in, from the medical side, it actually can show up later as disease. But when it comes, because the emotions can actually manifest in that way. But when it comes to the emotions themselves, when you cry, when you have that release, there's a reason why you feel better after. And it's like it's really amazing what happens. And you mentioned none of us ever know. And last time I checked, and it's probably more at this point, but last time I checked, every single night, 150,000 people, die, in the sense that when you wake up in the morning, 150,000 people didn't wake up. They went to sleep thinking they were going to wake up, and they didn't. And so when you wake up and you weren't one of them, first thing you should be saying is thank you. Your day is already a miracle. You've
Mm,
already won. You got an extra day of life. And then, oh my God, your spouse or your partner or your kids or your best friends and all these people, they're all alive too. Like, you just hit the jackpot that the 20 closest people to you weren't in that 150,000. And now imagine that's been consistent for years. How lucky are you? How fortunate are you? But if we lose that perspective, if we don't keep it on that, it turns back to the adult walking by beautiful flowers and he's completely unfazed, because I've seen flowers before. Like, I woke up. That was a given. I expected to wake up. When you lose that place of gratitude and you come from that place of expectance, that's when it turns into, I remember somebody said to me one time, why do you smile so much? And it was an interesting, kind of question to get. But I'm genuinely a happy person, but it's not because nothing happens to me. It's because of where I put my focus. It's because where I keep my perspective. And they thought to me, what happens in your life that makes you that happy? Meaning they think something has to happen in order for you to be happy. That kind of goes back to the have, do, be.
right.
What do you have that is making you happy? That's not how happiness works.
Mm,
You be it. Nothing has to happen in order for you to be happy, or for me to be happy, or for anyone to be happy, other than choosing to be happy. And the happiness comes in terms of a feeling, by when you have that focus, when you have that gratitude. I promise you that when you're looking at that sunset, and it's not just a sunset, you've seen thousands of them and that's it. This is the last one I'm ever going to see. You're going to find peace in that moment. You're going to find presence in that moment. You're going to find so much gratitude for life in that moment. It's going to be the most beautiful sunset you ever saw. Now imagine you do that every single night. Now imagine you watch the sunrise every morning just like that. I hope I get another one. I don't know if I will, though. In Buddhism, they do that, where a lot of these Buddhists will meditate on death and they keep a skull next to their bed as a reminder that life is fleeting. And then they go to sleep and they have this like prayer mantra of, if I don't wake up tomorrow, it's okay. It's like the non-resistance, the non-attachment side of it. But then when they do wake up, or if they wake up, it's that thank you, one more day of life. It's
right.
funny. I just finished watching. I'm a little behind. I just finished watching Game of Thrones last night, and
Oh man.
and there's that line. What do we say to the god of death? It's like, not today. But when you wake
Right.
up, not today doesn't mean not tomorrow. So it's like focusing on,
True.
I have today, let me make the most of it. And so,
Mm,
I think that going with that, a next tip or strategy, authenticity. Are you being you? Most of the people that I work with, most of the people that I know, I see them walking around wearing a mask. Many people in society do this because when we're younger, we adopt this kind of mindset. Who do I need to be for you to love me? Who do I need to be for you to accept me as I am for who I am? And we start to realize, or, in our mind, it's not true, but we think it's true. I can't be me. If Mike really knew me, he wouldn't like me. So I'm gonna act the way that I think he'll approve of. But all
mm,
of a sudden, when you're doing that in your whole life, you're in a career that you don't like and you hate your job, but you're there because it's expected. This is how it is, or it's too late for me. You're in a relationship that you're not enjoying, but you're not speaking up. You're not expressing my needs aren't being met. Am I meeting your needs? All these kind of things. I think that authenticity, that genuineness of I'm going to be me, that is where your peace is. That's where your happiness is. Because so many times I might say that first question, what do you want? And you might tell me. Now, what if I follow it up with, why do you want that? Why is that important to you? I remember having a client, it's like, I want $10 million. Dollars. And, he was nowhere near that. And it's like, okay, cool. Why do you want that? And he tells me, oh, because I'll have this and I'll have this and all these possessions. I'll be able to travel. Cool. Why do you want that? Like, why is that important to you? And then he tells me, I asked him that question like 9 times. And at the end, it's like, oh, well, because if I have $10 million, then my parents will finally think I'm successful and then I'm good enough.
wow.
So it had nothing to do with the money.
That's, it was
It,
it was that need of being satisfied by their parent or getting that parent satisfaction, right?
it's the
That's
need of
crazy.
internally realizing I am enough exactly as I am.
Yes. Oh my
And
God. Yes.
And I promise you and myself and everyone listening, whether it lands or not, you are perfect exactly as you are. You are enough exactly as you are. Now, you mentioned the first question you asked me, like, why personal development? Why self development? You're enough as you are. Now, enough in terms of as a being, as a soul, as a spirit, as life, as whatever you want to call it, you're everything. You're enough.
Mm,
But in terms of having a goal, if you're making $100,000 a year and you want $10 million a year, you're not enough yet to make that. You haven't stepped into that. You haven't become that person yet. So in that, it's kind of like a balance. You're
right.
enough as you are as a living being, but maybe you're not enough yet to get to where you want to be. But that's the development of it. That's the excitement of it. That's the process of becoming it.
Right. Right.
But being okay with that fact of, am I being authentic? Am I being me? Because I promise someone listening to this, the source of your pain, the source of your unhappiness is that you're living a lie. You're not being you. And it's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you trying to make happy? Who are you trying to impress? And when you finally can get to a point where the answer is just you, then you're going to find, oh, wow, I'm still making the 100,000, the 50,000. I'm nowhere near the 10 million, but I'm actually pretty happy right now. Because if you're being yourself, you're being authentic, and you couple it with the other things we're talking about. Let's imagine you want 10 million, you're making 50,000. Well, you know what you want, and then you figure out how you're going to make it happen. You know the person you got to be, and then maybe next year you're making 80,000. The next year you're making 120. You're getting closer, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm doing it for me. I'm living my truth. I'm being authentic to me. And then you live as if it's your last, and you treat people as if you're never going to see them again. Now it's like your life is filled with so much peace and happiness because you got
Right.
perspective and you're being you. And so authenticity is one of my highest values. And for me, it's one of the greatest gifts that I could ever give anybody and that they could ever give me and other people because you're unique. No one in the world is like you. Yeah, I remember there's a quote I saw years ago. It's just like, you were born in you were born an original, don't die a copy. And
Mm,
there's this like, it's like no one's like you. Yeah, no one in the
love
world
that.
is like you. And why are you trying to be somebody else? You know, I remember for me when I was younger, I was 14, when I got into the mindset on like helping people in that way, Tony Robbins was a big guy for me. Like I
Mm.
wanted to be like Tony. That's like what I wanted to do. And but I had a shift at some point in my teenage years where I realized, I don't want to be Tony. I want to be Jamil. Because people will say, "Oh, you're going to be the next that." Well, I get the intention. That's beautiful. Thank you. But when it comes to, I can't be a better Tony than Tony, but Tony can't be a
Right.
better Jamil than Jamil. And in
That's
that
right.
same way, it applies to you and everyone else. Be you, share and shine that light that you have to give that only you can give. And you'd be amazed at how your life takes off in such a beautiful way.
Oh my God, Jamil. Mic drop, dude. That is incredible, man. Oh, so real, bro. And I love it. I love it. Do not you wait, you were born an original, don't die a copy. That should be on like you should create a t-shirt. As a matter of fact, as a
I'm
matter
going
of
to make a
fact,
note.
no, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna send that to you as a t-shirt. That'll be our gift to you, Jamil, for blessing us with this amazing time on this show, man. I swear that this has been so phenomenal. And like we literally could keep going, but we're running out of time here. So I wanna take it in and ask you 4 questions in our bonus round, man.
All
But
right.
God, dude, wow, so powerful. Question number one, and this is gonna be good. I know it. What is your favorite book?
It's funny. That's actually one of the hardest questions you could ever ask.
Yes, I know. Yes,
I'm
and he's on the
in
clock, guys.
You can't see it, but I'm in an apartment of like 800 books or something like that. That when I moved here, I had four. That was 5 years ago. Um,
Wow.
all right. So I'll answer it, but I think that you're gonna have a different favorite book at different times of your life based on what
Mm,
you need to hear at that time. And
that's
I
true.
think that one book that comes to mind that to me was really powerful. It's actually a book called Conversations with God. And there's like
Mm,
six of them, but the first one in particular, it's not a like religious book. It's more of a like a spiritual journey that it takes you on. It's a really beautiful book. I think that it's written in a way where anyone will take something really powerful from it, and it can share some powerful perspective and truth. Um, you know, there's so many books that I could come up with. One, can I give you a second one?
yeah, go for it, man. It's all good.
And there's this small book. It's a green book, hardbound. It's called Rules for a Night, but night like with a K, like
Okay.
Knight.
Oh
And
yeah, you sent me that one. The
yes, I
green one,
did.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that book, for anyone who has kids and you want to pass a message along, or for anyone that just wants that development for themselves, quick book, but I think it's so powerful to give perspective. And it goes back to focusing on who you want to be. It's kind of the 20 rules or lessons of what it means to be a knight. And I think that you'd want to apply all 20 of those to your life. And you could read that book in a day. And so I
Yeah.
really think that
It's really
those
good.
two would be powerful.
Yeah, that book was really good. Rules for a Night, man. I really appreciate you giving that to me. It's still on my desk, bro. And every once in a while I'll go back and I'll read a little bit of it, but that's good. That was really good. All right, man. Question number two. Who is your biggest hero and why?
Mm. My biggest hero is my mom.
Mhm.
And when my dad had his aneurysm, my mom is the strongest person that I know. And my mom is somebody that seeing what I can only imagine, what it's like to be with somebody for 20, I think it was 25 years when my dad had passed away. To be with someone for 25 years and and my dad died at 53, so my dad was young. To be with someone for 25 years, be in your 50s and then, be widowed and to see the strength that she has, to see the love that she has, to see her willingness to still be able to live her life in like a really beautiful way. And also when my dad was alive during those 3 years, to see how she took care of him and stood by him and supported him and did so much for him that I can only imagine, a lot of people wouldn't have been willing to do that. And the way that she exemplified to me what it means to love somebody was just a really beautiful gift to see. And the support that she's given me in my own life, in my career, and just the love, the appreciation, the like she's my biggest cheerleader. It's like having someone like that on my side, really makes me feel like unstoppable.
That's awesome, man. Look at you. About to make me cry again, dude. That's that's intense, bro. Outstanding, man. All right. Question number 3. What do you like to do for fun?
Mm. What's fun? No, I'm joking.
Yeah. All
For
right.
me, yeah, no, so
Always on the grind.
yeah, no. Well, the last 5 years, I got into hiking, and so that's been really fantastic for me. My girlfriend's really big into being outdoors, being active, and so I never hiked a day in my life. I'm from New York, and never hiked, never camped, never really did any of that. And over the last several years, we've hiked the tallest mountains in Arizona. It's been incredible. And so hiking, I love to sing. I love to just be with people, have some powerful conversations that are just fun, where we're laughing, genuine, as hard as possible, where it hurts to breathe.
Yeah, right.
And that to me is what I really enjoy. I love being active. I love spending time with people. I love and just being in the moment. Honestly, the other like the amount of times I'm walking, and because of that perspective, I'm just I go for walks all the time, and I might be in a really peaceful place, and this dog comes running toward me out of nowhere. And then I'll like squat down, dog's hands in my face. I'm just petting it. I feel so at peace and happy in that moment. And it's always happens. The owner comes running around the corner saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. He normally doesn't let anybody touch him." And it's like, I feel like when you're in that place of perspective, in that place of peace, in that place of gratitude, happiness is just a byproduct, and you're kind of in it most of the time. And
Right.
you'd be amazed at what opportunities, what people, what animals, what anything get attracted to that. And so that's kind of like I feel like that answers it.
That is awesome, man. I love it. No, I love that. Being in the moment. That's important. And I think that resonates a lot with what we've already been discussing, over this podcast. So it's good. All right. Last question, man. Question number 4. You already kind of given us the mic drop moments and so much knowledge, but if you had 3 nuggets of wisdom to drop finally for those that are just getting started, what would it be?
Mm. So I think a lot of it in shorter versions are going to be some things we've talked about. It's going to be,
Hmm.
in summary, live your life. Don't live other people's version of your life.
Mm,
That goes to the authenticity. Be here rather than just being present. And I think that the difference there is I can be present. I can all the way up, be present rather than just being here. Like I can be here, like I'm in the room, but mentally I'm like 50,000 miles away.
right.
Versus being present. I'm with you. I'm engaged. And I think that when you bring that level of presence to your life, when you bring that authenticity to your life, you're living your version. And then the last one is to have fun with it. Like, don't take life too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. I think that that miracle is that you're looking for is all around you. And it's funny. It's like the perfect way to end. It's like mic drop moment. Morgan Freeman in Bruce Almighty. I remember when I was a kid, one of my favorite movies with Jim Carrey, and Morgan Freeman plays God. And there's that line at the end where he says, "Son, you want to see a miracle? Be the miracle." And it's like, there it is. Be the miracle. Bring that. See it all around you because you have that perspective. Live your life and have fun with it. And don't take it too seriously. And I promise you, your life will take a massive, massive turn from before you watch this to now and going forward. If you watch it, rewatch it, listen to it, apply it. And I can't wait to hear how your life unfolds.
Outstanding, man. Oh my God. Guys, I'm telling you, you need to go and reach out to this man. Jamil, thank you so much for your time, man. This has been phenomenal, dude. Absolutely transformational. And I hope that those listening to this share this with someone that they need, that needs to hear this. I really do, because there's just so much power in this one conversation that can literally game change people's lives. So thank you so much for sharing this moment with me, Jamil. This is great,
Thank
buddy.
you so much for having me, man. I deeply, deeply appreciate this.
No, it really is, man. And it's so awesome to see you, as we were kids to now, and just how many lives you're going to transform, bro. I'm so proud, man. I'm so proud to know you. So this is good, man.
The
This is
feeling
cool.
goes both ways. I
Yeah.
remember, well, I still do. I brag about you all the time. Like I'll leave the name out. I'll be like, yeah, one of these guys, like he's a client of mine. He's like, he's doing all this amazing stuff, and I'm so proud of him. Just like,
No, man. Oh, well, hey, bro. We've got a bright future together, man. Let's go and change some more lives.
yeah.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Anyway, Jamil, how can our listeners get in touch with you, man?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'd love to give a gift to them if they're open to that. And
Please.
so
Sure.
I'll send you the link later. But I wrote an ebook called 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. It's like
Mm.
75 pages. Each chapter is like 2 or 3 pages. I designed it where you could read it 5 minutes a day, or you could read the whole thing in one shot. But I've had people tell me, "Why are you giving this away for free? I'd pay for this on Amazon." Just, I'll give it to you. Read it, use it. There's activities in there, things that'll really change your life. Something similar to what we discussed today. Um, if you'd like to follow me on my journey, I've got at this point 400 to 500 or more pieces of content on my Facebook and Instagram, videos, minute long every single day, things to just completely shift your perspective in 60 seconds or less. So there's no excuse not to watch it. Instagram, it's just at Dr. Jamil Sayed, and I'll give Mike the link so he'll have them. And you can just go on my website, jamilsayed.com. You'll find ways to get in contact with me. If you'd like to work together or talk, you'll find blog posts and all these things that'll just really get you to where you want to be, get the ball moving, get you in momentum.
I love it. I love it. Guys, there will be links to all that in the show notes page as well. If you're watching the Facebook version of this, check out the comments. We'll go back in and we'll add all that stuff in there too. So, man, Jamil, thanks again so much for your time. Really appreciate it, bud. And look forward to working with you again in the future, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Really appreciate you.
All right. All right. Take good care, bud.
Take care.
And now